Scrum Master Coaching Course. Summary of the Scrum Process. www.hairsuccessplace.com. Scrum is an agile project management framework where products are developed in an iterative incremental process instead of a linear sequential process like the traditional or waterfall project management method. The iterative, incremental approach in Scrum helps to optimize predictability, control risks, and promote better outcomes. What is an iterative process? An iterative process involves a repetition of processes in order to generate a sequence of outcomes. Each repetition of the process is a single iteration, and the outcome of each iteration is the starting point of the next iteration. Iterations in Scrum are called sprints, and these sprints usually last for 2 weeks. An incremental process involves breaking down processes into small manageable portions known as increments. Each increment builds on the previous version, so that improvements are made step by step. The Scrum framework contains 3 main categories. 1. Scrum Team or Scrum roles. These are the specific roles and people involved in the Scrum team. These roles are the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the development team. 2. Scrum artifacts. These are the important documents and assets used in Scrum. Scrum artifacts include the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. 3. Scrum events. These are the events which take place within the sprint. Scrum events include sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Successful use of Scrum depends on people becoming more proficient in practicing 5 values. These values are courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Scrum pillars include transparency, inspection, and adaptation. The Scrum Master is the manager of the Scrum process. The Scrum Master is the person who serves the team as a servant leader, ensures that everyone is following Scrum rules on the project, facilitates meetings, resolves conflicts, removes obstacles or impediments, provides help, and supports the team in many other ways. Scrum teams are made up of a product owner, a Scrum Master, and developers. There are typically 10 or fewer members in a Scrum team. These teams break their projects into small increments that can be completed within time-boxed iterations called sprints. Scrum teams decide what to build it, deliver it to the customer, gather feedback, then move to the next increment. When a customer makes a request, a main goal or project is established. The project is divided into small consumable portions, called user stories. The product owner, with input from the stakeholder, customer, or end user, creates acceptance criteria for the user stories. User stories are stored in a product backlog and are completed incrementally in 2-week or 1-month time-boxed iterations called sprints. Each sprint begins with a planning ceremony. This meeting, which is facilitated by the Scrum Master, is attended by the product owner, development teams, and stakeholders, as needed. During the planning ceremony, user stories are estimated using techniques like the planning poker, to estimate the time needed to complete each user story. During planning, user stories are also prioritized based on value, dependencies, and available resources. Items are selected from the product backlog to create the sprint backlog. The items are selected based on factors like value, urgency, and availability of needed resources. Items that are ready to be put in the sprint backlog are said to have met the definition of ready. During the sprint, day-to-day meetings, called daily Scrum, are held every day for 15 minutes, to give opportunity for the development team to discuss progress of the project. Questions asked during the daily Scrum meetings are as follows: what did you do yesterday? What will you do today? Are there any impediments in your way? It is the Scrum Master's responsibility to remove impediments, so that the development team can focus on creating the products. The development team continues working on the product increment till the definition of done is met. When the development team completes the work of the sprint, or the increment meets the definition of done, a review ceremony is performed to check and evaluate work done in the sprint. The review ceremony is attended by the Scrum team and stakeholders. The Scrum team gives a product demonstration to the customer and receives feedback. Completed items that satisfy the acceptance criteria and definition of done are packaged and released to the client. All items not ready for release, also called incomplete items, are returned to the product backlog. At the end of the sprint, The team conducts a sprint retrospective ceremony or meeting, where the team evaluates its own performance and suggests improvements for the next sprint. It is the Scrum Master's responsibility to facilitate the retrospective in a way that would promote better team growth and performance. This can be done by asking open-ended questions, avoiding blaming, asking questions that would promote innovation, and highlighting team successes. Questions asked during the sprint retrospective include the following. What went well in the sprint? What didn't go well in the sprint? Are there any suggestions or possible solutions? The retrospective ceremony marks the end of one sprint and the beginning of the next sprint. Reflection. The Scrum process gives opportunity for teams to practice empiricism, lean thinking, transparency, inspection, and adaptation, while demonstrating the Scrum values of courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Please subscribe to our channel so that we can continue creating useful material. For full course, visit us at www.hairsuccessplace.com. Thank you.